Hi everyone and welcome to the latest edition of the Bison Video Blog. Along with Jeff Kolpack, I'm Izzo. We've reached March Madness as the Summit League basketball tournament will commence on Saturday in the brand new Denny Sanford Premier Center. After years at the old barn at the Sioux Falls Arena, the Summit League tournament gets a massive upgrade to the new building in Sioux Falls. And Jeffrey, for the men's side of it, we said it back in October, and I think the season kind of bared it out that for the first time since NDSU got into the league in 2008, this is a wide-open event. There are, I think, 5 different teams could win this tournament.
First of all, it's the iconic Sioux Falls Arena that we're going to be missing.
Barn.
That place is going to be fantastic. I took a tour of the Premier Center last year. We went under construction and was just thoroughly impressed how they can actually segment it too. You can have it down to maybe a few thousand, or you could blow it up to the 12 or whatever it holds. But this is anybody's tournament, and it is anybody's tournament. Why is it? Because I have the number 5 seed in this tournament winning it. I think South Dakota is going to go through. They're playing the best. They have a veteran lineup. They have a player who can get it done on both offense and defense, and Tyler Larson. And I just think that sometimes when you have a team, a conference with so much parity, that the top seed at some point after all these years is not going to gain all the time. This is the year for the number 5 seed.
All right. Let's first talk about the Bison before I rip your pick there. As the Bison will play Denver on Saturday night. That's the late game, 8:30 start approximately on ESPN3, and Midco doing all the television of the first 2 rounds. The Bison, Jeff, beat Denver both games. Both games went overtime. The game in Fargo where Denver couldn't miss in the first half, the Bison only had 16 first-half points. They rallied to win that game. Then the second game out in Denver was a wild finish where Corey Brown got hurt, and of course we had the half-court buzzer beater and all that. I'm of the mindset this is the worst matchup for NDSU, to be honest with you. If it was IUPUI or Western Illinois, I don't think NDSU be thinking twice about advancing out of the semifinals. But Denver is an odd team. The way they play offense, this has been a tricky game for the Bison.
Just look at Denver there in the highlights. There's nothing about that team that impresses you. They all look the same. They all look like they're about 6'4", okay quickness, okay shooters. Everything's just okay about this team. That being said, NDSU went OT in both times. Yeah. They cannot play down to Denver's level. Denver's a decent team, but no more than that. NDSU can be very good when playing well. There's the guy, Lawrence Alexander. He needs to play up to his level. He can't go down to Denver's level.
How big a deal is Corey Brown being hurt? Because he has not been the same since this game at Denver when he only played the first 3 minutes and left. He wasn't the same against South Dakota State. He wasn't the same in the 2 Bison home games, and obviously they took him out early against Oral Roberts. Him not being healthy is, I think, a major deal for the Bison going to Sioux Falls.
You're right. That is a major deal because Corey Brown is a defensive stopper on this team. It's like in football, taking your shutdown corner out of the mix. Yeah. It leaves a couple guys open more than maybe they should. He's the guy that when you look at the other team's best player, Corey Brown is that versatile defender. At 6'4", he's quick enough to match up to bigger guys, and he's quick enough to match up to smaller guys, and he's strong enough either way.
Right.
He's that type of athlete. You take that mobility out of his game, that's going to be tough because they need the shutdown stopper in tournament play.
Well, they have to stop Brett Olson. He's the guy who hit that half-court shot. He was the Summit League preseason player of the year. Dave Richmond told us yesterday that he's now playing like the preseason player of the year. We both have NDSU winning this game. I don't think there's going to be any blowouts. This is going to be how NDSU played through a majority of the Summit League season. They're going to have to grind it out and find a way to get the job done, I think, on Saturday.
Well, yeah, and I was surprised to hear when David said against Oral Roberts last week they play like this team in first place, meaning they didn't have that chip on your shoulder.
Right.
You need something to prove. They played like things are expect to happen, is what Coach Richmond said. Maybe they get that back now. So maybe they get that little that edge they need.
The hard edge they need?
That hard edge. Maybe that's what they needed.
Now, they're in the same bracket with Oral Roberts and IUPUI. That's the late game Sunday. I think we both have the Golden Eagles winning that. So that means NDSU would match up with Oral Roberts on the late game Monday. And now Oral Roberts just came off a beatdown of the Bison. NDSU beat them, I believe, by 4 points, the game that was in Fargo. That was the first conference game of the season way back when, after the first of the year. That's a toughie, because Oral Roberts always plays well. They have not played well, though, in Sioux Falls. Let's put that right out there. Remember, as the number 1 seed, the final year they were in the league before they left, they lost in the semifinal round to Western Illinois. That'd be a flip 'em game. I really believe that if they make it there.
Maybe 3 years off is what they needed to come back and play this tournament pretty well. Maybe Scott Sutton needed to forget about those previous games.
Remember that. They never played well. Remember they lost the first year in Sioux Falls in 2009 when the Bison were there.
Well, what are you saying?
I'm saying that there's a potential. NDSU, I think they're going to take
Dom
care
was
of
3 years ago. That was 3 years ago.
I'm not allowed back in Sioux Falls because the Bison never win when I'm there. But I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised if NDSU gets them back in that game. I think Fort Wayne beats USD. I really believe that. Fort Wayne plays its best basketball in Sioux Falls. I believe that. And I think this team will get its act together. I think they're going to beat USD in that opening round. And I think they're going to give the Jacks a heck of a game on the semifinal game. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a rematch of the conference championship game.
Fort Wayne's lost 2 of 3 going
I know
into
they
the
have.
tournament. USD is the hottest team in the league.
You throw that
USD has 6 guys, 6 guys who have averaged double figures in scoring in Summit Conference play. Fort Wayne's got Steve Forbes.
They got him, right.
You got one guy and you got a bunch of other average guys.
I like Mo Evans a lot, their point guard for Fort Wayne. He can be really, really good. South Dakota State, do we assume that the home advantage that was there at the old barn, at the iconic Sioux Falls Arena, does that translate over to the new place?
You can't tell just yet because this place is a lot bigger than the Sioux Falls Arena. It's double the size. It literally is double the size. I don't know if you're going to take that crowd noise they had. I mean, that was impressive.
They were on
Sioux
top of
Falls,
it, too.
And they were on top. I need to see it at the Premier Center first.
To the women's side, where USD is the #1 seed there, the Jacks surprisingly are 2. That's a role reversal over the last few years. The Bison come in as the 6th seed. We mentioned on my radio show last night, the Bison have the longest losing streak in the first round in the Summit League, Jeff. They have not won a first-round game since 2009. They match up with Oral Roberts, who they beat in Fargo back in January, then lost to by 25 points in the middle of February in Tulsa.
Bison could use Katie Johnson there to come out of the stands and hit a few threes too, but that's what they need right there is Brooke Lamar, and they need Taylor Thunstead, their freshman. If those 2 guards can combine for, say, 8, 9 3-pointers, they're going to be tough to beat because they're a scary team. They're due. I mean, I know we always talk about that. When you haven't won a first-round game since 2009, sometimes things just work in your way. I think they're due to win a game this year. I am.
Vicky McIntyre is the star for Oral Roberts. She's 6'7". I don't know how many teams in the women's basketball game can stop that. They did NDSU that first time. That's why they won. They certainly were not able to do that in Tulsa. That's the biggest key in my mind if they want to win on Sunday.
6'7" pretty big.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty tall player to defend in the post. Maybe there's some things you can do front back. You can do some zones. You can maybe pressure out front, try to prevent the post pass. That's going to be a coaching challenge.
Is it just USD and SDSU? Are we assuming that if anybody else is in the championship game besides those 2, it's an upset come next Tuesday?
95% sure those 2 will get in.
Who you out in that game? I like USD again. I think the Coyotes have got the Jacks number. Could it be a USD sweep in Sioux Falls? Is that what you're calling?
I'm calling a USD sweep.
Wow,
absolutely.
That would be quite the coup for them.
And the women they're pretty athletic. They finally matched South Dakota State's athleticism. And for 7 years, nobody could do it in the Summit League. Maybe 6 years. South Dakota found that answer that to match up to the Jacks, you got to match up with their strength and quickness. It's as quick as that, but it's tough to do.
They proved they could do it, Jeff. They beat them in the Summit League tournament last year on the biggest stage to go to the NCAA tournament, and that's worth its weight in gold in experience-wise.
Well, now they have to play as favorites too, or semi-favorites.
Correct. This past weekend, the Summit League Indoor Track Championships were held in Fargo. It was another dominating performance for the Bison women, Jeff, winning an 8th consecutive Summit League title, led by the fabulous Aaron Teschuk, who I know you were there to watch. We were there as well to win the mile, and it wasn't even really a contest in how she dominated the field, leading the Bison to one of their team championships.
It's the first time I've got to see her run. Boy, she's an athlete. I mean, she's just pure athletic ability. You can just tell some athletes have that stride. You look at, I'm not comparing her to Laura Raisler, but she's kind of up in that category when comparing to the rest of the conference. She was doing I believe the medley relay on Friday night when I watched her. And her instructions were just hang in second, and when you need to win in that last lap or 2, you do what you have to do. And it was something to see. Yeah. She was just literally almost going to sleep. She was so bored in second place there, you could tell. And then all of a sudden, 2 laps to go, boom. It was just, it was fun to watch.
She's one of the favorites for the Indoor National Championship, which comes up in a couple weeks' time at the end of March. Definitely, she's got to be a contender to win.
She's got a shot. She's got a shot.
Absolutely.
Because she has that closing ability. When you have that speed, you're never out of the race. We saw that Iowa State, the clip from the Iowa State meet when it's made its rounds on social media. She was literally, they declared her out of the race. Yeah. And the announcer did too, and she came around that last turn, and that was that kid's special.
Not only a busy weekend for basketball, it is for wrestling at the BBF as NDSU will host the West Regional this weekend. This is the event that qualifies wrestlers for the national championship that will be held in St. Louis in a couple weeks' time. The Bison have some great contenders. Assistant coach Manny Rivera told us yesterday he thinks there are 4 locks for the Bison already. I think we can assume Hayden Zillmer and Evan Knutson are probably the 2 of the 4 that they're simply going to make
locks
it to St. Louis.
to get to the finals? Is that what he's saying?
I think he's saying locks that are going to make it to St. Louis, which is pretty bold talk.
Putting a little pressure on head coach Roger Kish there, I think, Manny. But if you have they have the confidence. There's no doubt about it.
Do they have the talent to back it up is the question.
It's a young team yet. I think Hayden Zillmer is fantastic. I think Evan Knutson's fantastic.
Really good.
I think those 2, you talk about locks, they're near locks in my opinion. Everybody else, I think, is just too young. I'm not there yet. Jolson is an upperclassman. He has to prove himself, I think, on this stage yet. But those freshmen, sophomores, that's a lot to ask.
That'll be a busy day on Saturdays. We'll see who qualifies for NDSU to make it to the national championships. A busy week coming. Jeff and Jody Norstead will be in Sioux Falls for her coverage of the Summit League tournament. The Bison men play 8:30 Saturday. The Bison women at 2:30 on Sunday. There'll be video blogs from Sioux Falls with Jody and Jeff as long as the Bison are down there. As NDSU goes for another tournament championship, the Bison women trying to get out of the first round for the first time since 2009. For Jeff Kolpack, I'm Tom Izzo. That's the latest edition of the Bison Video Blog.